There is a moment, maybe you've felt it, when the job you thought you'd stay in forever, the partnership you assumed was secure, or even the morning routine that anchored your days, simply isn't there. It's the feeling of reaching for a handle only to find air, like stepping into a hallway where the familiar wallpaper has been replaced by blank white walls. Your chest tightens, your hands hover in midair. The cheese you counted on, security, recognition, that hard-earned role, or even the rhythm of your old commute, has been moved. In that first heartbeat, your mind races through a maze of corridors, trying to find what's missing. This is not a failure or proof that you're unprepared. It's life tapping you on the shoulder and whispering, "Things have shifted. Are you willing to shift too?" Growing up, I read Spencer Johnson's Who Moved My Cheese? The little parable seemed simple. 4 characters in a maze searching for cheese, which they found at Station C. 2 of them, Sniff and Scurry, kept their running shoes around their necks and checked the cheese pile every day. When they sensed it dwindling, they were ready to move. The other 2, Hem and Haw, settled in and built routines. They came every morning, assuming their cheese would always be there. When the cheese vanished, Sniff and Scurry noticed quickly and set off to find more, while Hem and Haw refused to believe reality. Eventually, Haw realized that change was permanent and wrote messages on the maze walls. "If you do not change, you can become extinct. What would I do if I weren't afraid?" Haw let go of the past and found new cheese, whereas Hem clung to what had been and never ventured forward. This story has become more than a children's fable. It's a mirror held up to every workplace layoff, every industry disruption, every personal relationship that evolves. The cheese is your role, your project, the skills you've honed, or the small pleasures that make your day worth waking up for. The maze is the environment, your company, industry, or personal life, full of twisty passages and blind corners. The lessons etched on Haw's wall can guide us when our own cheese disappears. Accept change, adapt quickly, anticipate it. Face fear, enjoy new experiences, monitor the landscape, try new approaches, and reflect on what you learn. But let's slow down. Change is not just a strategic concept, it's visceral. It rattles the dishes in your cabinets and sneaks into your dreams. You might have your morning coffee at a certain window, feeling the steam on your lip. Then one morning, you find yourself sitting in that same seat with a pink slip in your hand or a message on your phone saying, "We need to talk." That's the threshold where Sniff, Scurry, Hem, and Haw wake up inside you. One part of you sniffs the air and senses which way the wind is blowing. Another part rushes to action. Another part, perhaps the loudest, sits down and complains, "Who dared move my cheese?" And there's another part that knows staying in denial will only hurt more. When I first experienced a major career shift, it wasn't elegant. I had joined a company fresh out of university. The office felt like Cheese Station C. Predictable, comfortable. My desk had family photos, my tasks were familiar, and I knew everyone's order at the coffee shop. I noticed subtle shifts, the new CEO, the empty chairs that weren't being filled, the way budgets were whispered about in meetings. I heard my inner sniff. Pay attention, the cheese supply is dwindling. But my inner hem was louder. You've earned this stability, why should you give it up? On the day layoffs were announced, I felt betrayed. I clung to the idea that maybe there'd been a mistake. I returned to my desk as if my cheese would reappear. It didn't. What I wish I'd known then is that ignoring change doesn't protect you. It delays your ability to move. In the book, Haw writes another message. The quicker you let go of old cheese, the sooner you find new cheese. This isn't cold advice to get over it. Letting go begins with grieving what was. You are allowed to mourn the loss of your routine, your colleagues, your badge that opened certain doors. It's okay to feel what you are feeling, but after you've acknowledged those feelings, you have to put your running shoes back on. Otherwise, you stay hungry in a place where there will never be more cheese. So how do we learn to move through the maze when we're tired, scared, or angry? Let's talk about some tangible practices inspired by the characters and the messages on those walls. We'll weave them into our daily lives so that change becomes less of an ambush and more of a companion we travel with. 1. Smell the cheese often. Monitor change. You don't need to live in paranoia, but you do need to pay attention. In your job, keep your eye on industry trends. Notice when the company's profits dip or when new technologies emerge. In your personal life, pay attention to how your habits serve you. Like Sniff and Scurry, keep your running shoes ready. This means continuously learning new skills, updating your resume, and nurturing relationships outside your current role. It means noticing when your energy dips when you do certain tasks and being curious about why. Monitoring change allows you to anticipate it. 2. Let go of the past, adjust to new circumstances. Hem stayed in Station C because he believed he deserved his cheese forever. He didn't want to imagine a new path. Many of us do the same in relationships and careers. Maybe you've worked hard to build a department, and you feel resentful when leadership reorganizes it. Maybe you've invested in a partnership and can't imagine life without that person. The second lesson is to loosen your grip. It's painful to release, but clenching harder doesn't bring back the old cheese. Letting go can be gentle. Make a list of what you'll miss, thank those pieces, and then write down what possibilities this change might bring. Replace why me with what's next. 3. Imagine success. Face fear with vision. Haw overcame his fear by picturing himself enjoying new cheese. Neuroscience shows that visualization shapes our behavior. Our brains respond to imagined experiences much like real ones. If your company announces a pivot, spend a few minutes picturing yourself thriving in that new structure. If your relationship ends, imagine yourself, in detail, feeling content in a new apartment or exploring a new interest. Let the picture be specific: what you'll wear, who you'll talk to, how you'll laugh. Fear thrives in ambiguity. Vision thrives in detail. 4. Embrace action. Adapt quickly. Sniff and Scurry didn't write essays about why their cheese disappeared. They ran. That doesn't mean reckless decisions. It means testing small moves instead of staying still. If you're thinking of changing careers, take a course or volunteer in that field while you still have your current job. If a relationship feels stale, try introducing a new way of connecting instead of silently resenting the rut. Momentum reduces fear because you're no longer sitting with imagined monsters. You're engaging with reality. Start with tiny actions. Update your LinkedIn profile. Reach out to a mentor. Go to a networking event. Send a resume. These steps are your running shoes. 5. Enjoy change. Find joy in new experiences. The book emphasizes that new cheese can be even better than what we lost. That doesn't mean the process is always pleasant, but there are moments of unexpected delight. When I left my corporate job, I discovered that working freelance allowed me to choose projects aligned with my values. I had to budget carefully and hustle for clients, but I also got to take midday walks and pick up my kids from school. During a personal breakup, I discovered forgotten parts of myself. I danced in my kitchen again. I read novels late into the night without guilt. Joy in change isn't about pretending you're happy about loss. It's about noticing the small gifts that come with newness. 6. Innovate and experiment. Try new approaches. New cheese often requires learning new skills or ways of operating. In the workplace, this might mean adopting new software, shifting to remote work, or adjusting your communication style. In your personal life, it might mean experimenting with different routines or hobbies. Hem refused to try new cheese because it wasn't the kind he liked. Don't be hem. Experiment with different solutions. If you are an engineer and your industry is moving toward AI, start playing with machine learning tools. If your relationship dynamic isn't working, read about different love languages and test them. Innovation isn't just about being creative, it's about being willing to be a beginner again. 7. Reflect and grow. Learn from change. At the end of the story, Haw compiles all the lessons he wrote on the walls into a list that includes embracing and anticipating change, monitoring it, adapting quickly, and enjoying it. Reflection makes your experience valuable. After a layoff, take time to assess. What skills did you gain? How did your values shift? After a breakup, what did you learn about your needs and boundaries? After a global pandemic, how did your priorities change? Journaling, therapy, or honest conversations with friends can help you turn a difficult transition into wisdom. These practices don't remove the sting of change, but they build resilience. And resilience is not a stoic ignoring of pain. It's the capacity to feel fully while still moving forward. In the parable, Haw's courage doesn't come from suppressing fear. It comes from acknowledging it and taking one small step anyway. He doesn't throw away his running shoes after finding new cheese. He hangs them around his neck, ready for the next shift. Now, let's get personal. Think about the last time your cheese moved. Was it a restructure, a health diagnosis, a friendship evolving? Picture that version of yourself at the threshold, hand on the doorknob. Maybe you felt numb, maybe you cried, maybe you got angry. Invite all 4 characters into the room. Sniff, who notices, Scurry, who acts, Hem, who resists, and Haw, who wavers but eventually adapts. Ask each of them what they need. Sniff might say, "Let's gather information." You can answer by reading industry reports, asking clarifying questions, watching for patterns. Scurry might say, "Do something." You can make a plan, even if small. Hem might say, "I'm scared." You can soothe him by honoring his fears and promising to move at a pace that doesn't crush him. Haw might say, "I know we need to change, but I'm not sure how." You can coach him by sharing stories of times you adapted before. Here's an exercise I often give in workshops. On a blank piece of paper, draw a simple maze. Label one corner, old cheese, and another corner, new cheese. Now, mark where you are. Around the maze, write the walls, the beliefs or habits that keep you from moving. Maybe one wall says, "I'm too old to switch careers." Another says, "I can't handle being single." Then write on the open corridors, the beliefs that support change. I've learned new skills before. I deserve to be loved for who I am. This visual reminder helps externalize your internal maze. Change in the workplace often intersects with change in our personal lives. When your company reorganizes, you might find yourself working from home, blending personal and professional spaces. The same friction you feel when your meeting schedule changes might show up when your partner wants to rearrange the living room. The principles remain the same. Smell the cheese often. Let go of what no longer serves. Picture yourself succeeding in the new arrangement. Take small actions to adapt. Enjoy the novelty. Try new methods. Reflect on what you've learned. The more you practice, the more natural this becomes. One of the most powerful messages from the book is that change is constant and continuous. The maze keeps shifting. The cheese moves again and again. This isn't a glitch in the system. It is the system. Companies pivot, economies shift, children grow, relationships evolve, bodies age. Thinking of change as a one-time hurdle sets you up for disappointment. Instead, imagine life as a dance with change. You can learn the rhythm. You can anticipate the beat dropping. You can improvise when the music surprises you. My grandmother used to tell me, "When the world changes, change with it, and always take your humor along." She lived through wars, migrations, and technological revolutions. When she lost her home in a flood, she cried as she swept muddy water out of the kitchen and then laughed as she found her tea kettle floating under the table. That kettle became her symbol of resilience. She didn't pretend to enjoy losing her home, but she found small joys: the smell of clean laundry once they settled somewhere new, the taste of cheese, literally, that someone gifted her, the sound of her children singing. She was Sniff, Scurry, hem, and haw all at once. She sniffed out safe places, scurried to find work, resisted leaving behind her garden, and finally adapted by planting seeds in window boxes. Her running shoes hung around her neck for the rest of her life. If you're leading others through change, maybe you're a manager implementing a new software system or a parent moving your family across the country, remember that people identify with these characters. Some will sniff out opportunities. Some will scurry ahead. Some will hem and haw. Your job is not to drag him by the collar, but to paint the picture of the new cheese so vividly that even he starts to imagine himself there. As a leader, share the why behind change. Acknowledge fears. Provide support for learning new skills. Celebrate small wins along the way. And when someone chooses not to adapt, recognize that they may need to find their cheese elsewhere, and that's okay. In relationships, change can feel personal, like a judgment on your worth. If your partner wants to move cities for a job, it might feel like they are choosing career over you. But what if you look at it as a cheese that has moved? Are you willing to sniff what this new city offers? Are you willing to scurry toward new experiences? Can you honor the part of you that wants to stay and still step into the maze? Applying the cheese lessons in your personal life means trusting that the maze has more than one station, and that sometimes new cheese tastes even better. As we near the end of this talk, return with me to the threshold. You're standing at your fridge at midnight, or outside a conference room after hearing news you didn't expect. You feel that ache in your chest. You reach for the handle. Before you pull, ask yourself, is this for fuel, feeling, or both? In the context of change, the question becomes, is this action a reaction, a comfort, or a step toward what I truly need? Pause, breathe, then step into the maze on purpose. Plate your experience the way the story about emotional eating suggested plating a snack. When you plate change, when you place it consciously before you, it feels less like being pushed and more like choosing. Change doesn't ask us to be fearless. It asks us to be curious. It doesn't require us to like uncertainty. It invites us to dance with it. The next time your cheese is moved, when your job shifts, when your plans fall through, when your heart breaks, remember Sniff and Scurry. Remember hem and haw. Remember the messages on the wall. Anticipate change, monitor it, adapt quickly, let go, enjoy new cheese, be ready to change again, reflect. You deserve not just to survive change, but to discover new flavors and textures in the cheeses you find along the way. I hope this story and these reflections become your gentle ritual, your running shoes, your leash around your neck. Keep them handy, because life will keep moving your cheese. But now you have a map, a reminder, and maybe even a smile when you think of 4 quirky characters chasing after cheddar. Welcome to the maze. It's not always comfortable, but it's rich with possibilities.